little spooky furry friends. Welcome to What a Scream, the horror movie podcast where I, your host, Ygraine, chats about horror movies with a special guest every week. And in particular, we talk about two horror films that kind of have to do with a certain subject or theme. Now, as it is official spooky season, I decided to do an episode dedicated to Halloween movies set at Halloween, etc., etc. I was going to put it out a little bit later in the month, but I thought, you know what? You're going to need to plan out your horror movies for spooky season. So here it is. This week, I am joined by a friend of the podcast, regular contributor, Miss Ruby Noir. And together we are discussing movies set at Halloween. And we are dissecting in spoilerific detail The Devil's Rejects, directed by Rob Zombie, and then Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, the only Halloween film that does not feature Michael Myers. Both of these films are set on Halloween night, and we'll also be letting you know about a few others, just so you can, perhaps plan a few spooky movie evenings for yourself. I hope you're all enjoying spooky season. I know I am. I'm getting in the spirit. I'm always in the spirit. I am the spirit of Halloween. I haunt those who have forgotten the true meaning of Halloween. Yeah. So let's get into it. Let's get into our spooky season movies. Enjoy. So I'd like to welcome back to the podcast. It's Ruby Noir. How are
Hello. You? Some poor fucker lit a black flame candle and I'm back again.
You have been summoned.
I have been summoned for the spooky season. I am good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Getting in the mood for Halloween. Yes. We are recording this in mid-September. Well, kind of late September now, isn't it? Yeah, okay. And I have been in this mood since the 1st of September.
Oh, absolutely. I have this pumpkin skirt thing and I've just been wearing it every day since September hit. I'm like, it is the season, and I will wear it until the end of November. At which point my wardrobe will transition to things with snowflakes on them.
My gym gear has pumpkins on it, and I keep getting, oh my god, you're getting into the Halloween spirit early, and I'm like, Halloween's
I just wear this all the time
every year. I'm like
all the time. My partner was he was doing a residency down the country for a little while, for a week, and he came back and he's like, I got presents for you. And I was like, what did you get? And it was just loads of Halloween decorations. I was like,
oh,
he knows me so well.
I'm really struggling because I'm looking for stuff for my wedding. I'm really, really struggling.
Apparently Woody's is full of stuff at the moment, I've been told. Okay. But if you want to send me a list, I'll keep an eye out. I'm not even kidding, because we go to Woody's a lot. Apparently TK Maxx is always also the other place apparently that's a good one for Halloween decorations.
So I went into TK Maxx the other day and they were putting out their Christmas decorations. They had taken all their Halloween decorations off the shelves and were now putting up Christmas decorations.
Did they let you go into storage and just rummage by any chance?
I didn't ask. I should have, but they probably would have kicked me out as that crazy person.
Unfortunately, I don't have a massive amount to contribute, but I do have one set of skull fairy lights that you can borrow. And a skeleton dog that you can just, I don't know, you can just be hanging out somewhere.
In the toilets or something.
Yeah. We'll see what we can do.
So our theme for this week is films set at Halloween.
Yay!
Because the whole of October is Halloween themed on the podcast. So
yes, indeed.
I take it you're a fan of Halloween?
No, of course I fucking love Halloween. Yeah, it's the one time where people don't stare at me walking down the street. Because they're like, yeah, okay, Halloween. Yeah, it's just really look, Halloween it's nothing to do with its origins.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to go all Dan O'Hurley on you and be like, it should go back to its roots. It's just fun. It is a season for fun, and I really like that about it, and I always have. And the best kind of fun, which is scaring the crap out of yourself.
Yes, I really like it because the rest of the year I'm creepy horror. kind of. But then at Halloween, you get a bit of the kitsch and a bit of the camp,
Yes.
and the sweets and the movies are a bit more campy, and it's like a warm fuzzy feeling that you'd usually get at Christmas, but I get it at Halloween.
It really is. Well, it's like it starts at Halloween for me and then builds to Christmas because I love Christmas as well. But like for basically the same reasons, to be honest with
Yeah.
you. Like I can dress like a loon. There's stuff to do.
Yeah.
Myself and my friends always do like a Halloween pilgrimage down to one of the like the theme horror farms as well.
Yeah.
Which we're gonna be able to do this year. I'm so excited.
No, I've booked my Nightmare Realm tickets.
It's been so long since I've been chased by a man with a chainsaw.
I know, yeah. I have never gone to Nightmare Realm, which is the main one in Dublin.
I've never been to Nightmare Realm either.
So I'm breaking my virginity this year. I have been to one called Vampirates that was in the Ambassador.
Yeah. Wasn't it Vampire Pirates?
Yeah, Vampirates.
I really wanted to go to that and I just didn't. It never happened and I was so annoyed.
It was spectacularly awful.
That's what I love though.
The only thing I will say about it is in the middle of it, they had this weird like assault course thing that you'd see in like a kid's play. Like it was foam and you had to crawl on your knees. And I was like in the throes of like, I had like undiagnosed fibromyalgia. You know, I wasn't on the medication yet. And I was like, I can't do it. And it was the worst.
No.
So by the time you get to the end bit, and the big scare happened where they take your photo, I was so pissed off that I was just like, my photo, I was just like glaring at, the person who were meant to scare you. I was just glaring at them like.
Now, we usually go to either the Haunted Spooktacular or I can't remember what the other one is called, but it's literally up the road. They're both Pharmaphobia. So they're both like beside each other in Meath.
Yeah.
And they're both good crack. I've had interesting experiences of both of them. Because they're kind of longer. Like Nightmare Realm is quite short, I believe.
Yeah.
But I would like to give it a go. And it's just a bit of crack. I did, like, there was one time where I got separated from the group. Yeah. And like I walked into a room. It was like in one of the indoor bits. And I walked into a room and a guy jumped out and I was like, okay, But I was like just so concerned with finding my friends. And he stopped and he was like, are you okay? And I was like, oh, thank you. I'm fine. Nice. But it's just very dark and I can't see my boyfriend. I think he's about 3 rooms ahead of me. Oh yeah.
That was nice.
It was very nice because like sometimes you do get performers who go a bit over the top. I have encountered some of them and they need to get their shit together. But so it was nice to find like a nice one.
Yeah.
And some mad shit. Like I remember walking through one of them one time and we could hear guys in the next section rehearsing their lines at each other, being like, yeah, that's really scary. It was just great.
And would you ever do like the more extreme ones that we see over in like America? No,
not my bag at all. I want the fun, like the closest, like these ones where they might grab your ankles, or like I had some guy pull my ponytail one time, which I didn't really like, but okay. And that kind of thing. But anything super extreme is not my bag at all.
Anything
I don't
that
have
you have to sign a waiver for. You're not
anything you have to sign a waiver for. Anything where they're going to actively like restrict you.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea of personally. I do know people who have done them.
Okay.
And they had various different kinds of experiences. Some of them didn't mind it at all. They thought it was good fun. Some of them fucking hated it. As I'm sure you can imagine.
Yeah.
But do you think what's the farm? The place in the States,
McKinley Manor.
McKinley Manor. Do you think that's real?
I don't know. Like I've listened to like quite a few podcasts on it, and like there's I think on Netflix there's like a TV show. I think it's called like Extreme Tourist, and the guy goes to it. But he like barely.
It's called Dark Tourist.
That's it.
We covered it on Giving Me Life.
Oh, that's yes. So I don't know. Like it seems a bit sketch. And apparently the guy is a bit creepy and a bit like, what is he? Because he videotapes everything. And you're like, well, what is he doing with these videotapes?
He does. And it costs, well, mostly he puts them up online to get press by the thing. It costs a lot of money. It costs like 30 grand or something crazy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And there is a lot of rumors that it's not like all the videos and stuff is mostly faked. It's not really actual people.
Yeah.
So this is more my wonder is it like, is there actually only about 10 people who have done it for real and everyone else is like just playing along? Like, yeah, you see those videos. Like, I have no interest in that. None at all.
No,
Would you do
absolutely
it?
not.
No.
No. I have quite physical reactions to things. And I think I would just be like the worst. Like,
Yeah.
I think I would just accidentally attack someone. And I don't like, I'm all right when I know, like, say, like the Nightmare Realm, I'm all right with that because I'm like, they're actors and, you know, a lot of people that we'd know in the performer circle. So I'm kind of like, but yeah, I think for something like that, I think I'd be a bit more either that or I'd get in my head like, yeah, I'm in a horror film now. I've got to fight my way out and like just take it too far. I'm
You've got to be that final. You got to be that final girl. Oh yeah. I know. I have had like a bunch of people I know have been like, "Oh, I definitely end up punching someone," and then they go and they just like are scared shitless, and it's really funny.
Yeah. So what are your traditions for Halloween? What do you like to do every time Halloween comes around?
Oh gosh. I mean, I do like to dress up. Like you know me, I love a themed outfit anyway.
Yeah.
And like people in my office have gotten like they're starting to cop on that like I do a lot of like very subtle dressing up for like workplace workplace in October. And like if I'm hanging out at home, I'll try and do something for like the kids in the neighborhood, even though there's only like 3 kids on my street. Which is a bit sad. But usually these days, like if there's no party or like often we do gigs, obviously. And we like to cover myself in fake blood for those.
Yeah.
But yeah, if there's no party or no gig on actual Halloween night, if it's like a Tuesday or something, tend to do some sort of spooky movie marathon.
Yeah.
But I will, like I've already started watching about 3 horror movies a day at this point and just working my way through the Netflix and Prime back catalogs of terrible films.
Sounds like my normal work week.
Well, yeah. Unfortunately, for my other podcast, I have to watch non-horror things a lot. So.
I really like here, for me, because I'm really into food, I really like Halloween food. So in Ireland, for anyone who's not from Ireland, we have barmbrack.
I'm obsessed with barmbrack.
Same.
It's my favorite thing about the season.
Same. It's like a sweet fruit bread. And when you cut into it, there's a ring. And if you get the ring, it's like you get good luck or you're going to get married. But it's so nice to toast it and just spread it thick with butter.
Oh, and a cup of tea. Oh, I have a little Funko Pop of the Wendigo from Hannibal. And he's just got all my barmbrack rings on his antlers. That's where they go. He's like a little Halloween tree.
And I love, like, I am that basic person that I love everything pumpkin spice. I don't care.
The hatred of pumpkin spice is just it. You know what? It's misogynistic. It's just because young women like it and everyone's like, oh, it's stupid. No, let people have their pumpkin spice. Calm the fuck down. It's not hurting anyone. Yeah,
I mean, if men can go like mental over bacon things,
exactly.
Then, like, let us have our pumpkin spice.
Yeah, just let the lady have her pumpkin spice latte as a treat. She ain't hurting no one.
No,
and also it's fucking delicious.
It is. And I really love, like, I went to Chicago once in September and they have everything pumpkin spice flavored. No matter where you go, it's pumpkin spice flavored. And it's just like pumpkin spice flavored frozen yogurt, pumpkin spice flavored like scones. Oh my God, I was in heaven.
There's probably some things that shouldn't be pumpkin spice flavored. I haven't encountered one yet, but there's probably like a moment where they're going too far.
Like condoms or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll think on that one. On that one. Oh my goodness. Oh.
That's the thought. So yes, let's start with our Halloween themed films or films set at Halloween. We're kind of obviously discussing 2 this time, just 2. But there are tons. There are so many out there.
There are so many. We had a bevy of delights to choose from.
So let's start off with your pick.
Yeah, indeed. So this isn't. It's gonna say, unfortunately, this isn't my pick in the sense because it's for behind the scenes. Because this is actually the first time I'd ever seen this movie. Which is awful. Bad horror film. What it is Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. So it was directed by Tommy Lee Wallace, also written by him, and starring a lot of people, but as sort of like the main cast: Tom Atkins as Dr. Dan Chalice, Stacey Nelkin as Ellie Grimbridge, and Dan O'Herlihy, Irish treasure, as Conal Cochrane. So it is the only movie in the Halloween franchise to not feature Michael Myers. So it is set 8 days before Halloween is when it starts, in sort of in California in America. And sort of there's a mysterious sort of murder suicide that happens at a hospital, and the doctor gets drawn into it. So he sees both. He doesn't witness the murder, but he sees the suicide that happens, and he gets drawn into it. And then the daughter of the man that was murdered comes along, and they start unraveling this mystery that is to do with Silver Shamrock Novelties, which is an Irish-run company that produces these actually pretty cool latex Halloween masks. And they have this incredibly annoying ad that is running throughout the entire thing. And much like the characters, you really want to turn it off. Like, why? Set to the tune of London Bridge is Falling Down. So anyway, Dr. Dan and Ellie make their way out to this town called Santa Mira, which is weirdly full of Irish people, and they start unraveling the mystery. So it moves away from the slasher genre. It is more sort of supernatural sci-fi.
Yeah.
A bit of both. We're like, would you say sci-fi horror or supernatural horror?
No, I'd go with sci-fi horror.
Yeah, probably more closer to sci-fi horror.
Yeah.
It is anti-capitalist, it's anti-big business, it's anti-children, and anti-Irish. So yeah, Dan O'Herlihy as the sort of main villain of the piece is wonderful. I actually really enjoyed it. It was not a hit at the time.
Yeah.
So John Carpenter had always envisaged the Halloween series to be an anthology series. So they did Halloween 1 and 2. And as far as he was concerned, that sort of closed out the story of Michael Myers. And then they did this one. And it was a massive flop.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, no, more Michael Myers. We will only watch murders of children if they are being committed by a man in a William Shatner mask. That's it. So then they brought him back for a series of increasingly awful sequels.
Yeah.
And so this is the only. He does actually appear in ads for the original Halloween movie, because those movies are sort of fictional in this universe, which I thought was a really fun kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I actually really enjoyed it. Like, it's different for sure. It has some pacing issues, with probably my biggest issue with it. And then obviously it's a movie from the 80s, so there's some sort of weird gender relation stuff between the two main characters. It's like, oh, I love the fact that you've only asked how old she is after you slept with her. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Dan Chalice, like, he's a bit of a chump, like,
yeah.
There's a scene where he like smacks the arse of the nurse, and then he's obviously got a thing going on with like the mortician, and then obviously he sleeps with this girl really early on. It's not like they form a relationship.
No.
He's just like all sleazy, like, well, I suppose you want me to sleep on the floor.
I know. And she's like, where do you want to sleep, doctor? Sorry. Yeah, so that stuff is not particularly well dealt. It was a movie of its time, I suppose.
Yeah.
He's not a particularly likable protagonist, and like, because he has this really fractious relationship with his ex-wife as well. He's clearly an alcoholic. It's not really dealt with. It's just sort of casually mentioned that he drinks a lot. And so when he is calling her to warn of the imminent danger to the children, she's like, you're fucking drunk, go away. And you're like, I can't blame her.
Yeah, he's not exactly father of the year now, is he?
He's not. Also, those masks he got were shit. He gives masks to his kids at the very beginning of the film, and then it turns out that their mum has bought them the Silver Shamrock masks.
Yes. I see, this film has a special place in my heart because I taught Nate the Silver Shamrock song last year. And so leading up to Halloween, I just had him going like, 2 more days till Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. And now he calls it, he's like, Mama, sing your Halloween song. So like apparently this song is my Halloween song.
His mind is going to fucking explode the first time he sees this movie. Like, what? She didn't write it?
So
he
that's
could never
why,
know.
yeah, I have a special place in my heart. But yeah, it is such a departure from Halloween.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy that it's still kind of, it's Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. And it's so confusing when you're first coming to this series because you're like, okay, I've watched the first one, I've watched the second one, I'm going to watch the third one. And you're like, what? Like, what? Why do you think they decided to, instead of just calling it Season of the Witch, being like, okay, I know they wanted it to be part of this anthology series, but it just kind of felt a bit like, John Carpenter and Deborah Hill didn't really want to come back on for it.
No, they did have some involvement in it.
They did produce it in the end because they were like, we'll only have anything to do with it if it's got nothing to do with Michael Myers. But it feels a bit weird as how they are like, oh, it's still part of the Halloween franchise, but it's not.
Yeah, I mean, I feel people probably would have taken to it a lot more had they not expected it to be a slasher movie. Yeah. Like, the first Halloween, obviously, in particular, is like a classic of the genre. It like set standards. So yeah, I don't know. I think people these days are more au fait with the idea of an anthology series. And if they'd introduced the first movies that way, if it was like known that it was going to be, I suppose you can't really do that with films because you don't know if it's a flop, then you don't get no more money. So there's that kind of element to it. It's I don't think that they should have. I think if they'd wanted to just if they just changed the name, even Season of the Witch, not a great name for it, quite frankly. There's very brief mention of witchcraft. Dan O'Hurley at one point is just like, aha, yes, we're doing witchcraft. Wow. I robbed Stonehenge.
Yes. Okay. So there's the whole premise of the dastardly plot is that they have somehow stolen Stonehenge.
Just one big stone, but
I wonder.
I wonder get it across the world.
I wonder if Tommy Lee Waugh has ever gone to Stonehenge before, and
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I don't. I mean, it was a pretty big fucking stone, but
right. And then, like, putting its essence into thousands
microchips
of microchips that went into these masks that then are activated during the Halloween special giveaway, and it basically makes children's heads explode into a ticker tape parade of cockroaches, snakes, and spiders
and exciting bugs. Yeah, I have to say I did really like that scene. I thought it looked real cool.
It is a brilliant scene, and it's great when like the snakes come out because you're like, oh, witchcraft, Ireland snakes.
Yeah.
But I felt like it was such a build up to that scene, and that scene's like great, and then the rest of it is just like
I did read a thing, so spoilers for the end. It is an ambiguous ending.
Yeah.
Where Dr. Dan gets on the phone. He calls television and gets multiple channels to take the ad off air, but there's one channel left playing it, and he's like, you have to stop it, and it's just like, then that sort of just like fades out, and that's the credits. Apparently the alternate ending was going to be, there was no music over the credits, it was just going to be the screams of dying children. Which I think would have been a way better ending.
It absolutely would have. Like I think that would have cemented it as one of the greatest horror movie endings ever.
I think so, yeah. Because you are right, is that it's sort of, because it's an ambiguous ending and there isn't sort of any big, not really a gore fest, but like there's no climax to the movie.
Yeah, the payoff almost.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I don't mind an ambiguous ending in general, but I do feel that the pacing and the tone wasn't perfect, even though I did enjoy it. Because you had some very slow bits of just detective work, and then you had moments of like so Dan O'Hurley has built an army of robots to man his factory. How, you ask? Don't know. And then because he's great with latex masks, he's like, oh, it's all just mask making, I can make them look like real humans. So it's like you have this very sort of like supernatural sci-fi vibe, but then you also have like this scene where a robot rips someone's head off and there's like a geyser of blood, Japanese anime style. And it's like, so it's which made me laugh out loud. So tonally, it was like, I don't really see how these things sit together. Like the gore in and of itself isn't necessarily a bad thing for the movie. It's just the way that it was presented was really strange.
Yeah. The way the thing that kind of struck me as strange is it has these like notes of folk horror almost.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the old versus the new, the pagan versus typically Christian. But then it almost kind of marries the folk horror with the science fiction in the way that we do have these like killer robots walking around and, you know, the television using aerial waves to kill kids. And I found that really, on paper, it sounds like it could be a good idea, like using new technology with old faith to kill kids. But it just didn't quite marry well when it came to the screen.
Yeah, I think you're right. It was very strange. Yeah, no, I did like those notes of folk horror, I have to say. Like, it was an interesting thing to bring into it. But yeah, because I mean, it sort of has this really weirdly anti-capitalist, anti-big business message. You also hear from some older inhabitants of the town who are like, he came in and he won't hire any of us because all he hired was robots. But then obviously the owner of the company who's done all this damage is also like, we need to go back to the old ways. And that seems very kind of antithetical to what he wants to do.
Yeah. And how do you feel as an Irish person about its kind of anti-Irish themes in this? Do you think it's on purpose, or do you think it was just kind of its time and, you know?
I don't think it's on purpose, because I think if it was on purpose, they wouldn't have gotten a stone from fucking Stonehenge. They would have gotten something from Ireland.
The Blarney Stone, like.
Yeah, I mean, technically Stonehenge was built in Ireland, apparently, and then nicked by the Brits, because, you know, they're usually
what a surprise.
Now, just to clarify before I get letters, it was built, the theory is that it was actually built in Wales, but at the time Wales was part of Ireland. It's like obviously a gajillion years ago, technical term. So I read it in The Guardian. Probably right. Anyway. So I don't think it was on purpose, or else they would have gotten some of those kinds of details maybe a bit more on point. Like it didn't even need to be Barney stone, like just a made up stone from a ring, for any ring fort, just like anything. You chipped off a bit of the cliffs of Moher. It's magic. You know, it's Ireland. Everything's magic. We're all fairies. Literally. Yeah, I did. Like, it's so ridiculous that I honestly didn't mind it. And Dan O'Hurley is a treasure, and it was really nice to see him just like sinking his teeth into something so ridiculous.
Yeah,
like, he's got such a wonderful voice, and he's like quite good at being sort of like a bit like underlying menacey. Like, he's so all smiles and stuff, and then
yeah. I mean, as much as I give out about it, I do think it's like a must-see Halloween watch. Just for the masks alone, I freaking love the masks so much.
The design is so good.
Yeah,
I love those jack-o'-lantern masks.
Yeah, like I'm desperate for them. Like, apparently, so the witch and the skeleton was already kind of marketed and made, and the designer of the mask was like, oh, I'll just kind of change them a bit, whereas the jack-o'-lantern mask was completely like his creation, like it was completely made from scratch for this film. And apparently the guy who made the masks was very into like the mask being, you know, a reflection of society. And, you know, through the years we had masks such as like clowns, or, you know, like Venetian mask for balls. And apparently the mask maker found it very interesting that the most sold mask in America were horror masks.
That is interesting. That's very cool. Yeah, they were mass produced and made at the time. I'm sure there are some going on eBay for a ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah.
I would be interested to see, actually, because it would be cool. You can also get action figures of them, which is weird because they were a mask, so I don't know what they've got below the head. But
yeah. So why do you think it's like an essential Halloween?
I think that Halloween, the holiday, is so central to the plot. And not only because like it's Halloween and it's spooky, but like they have worked in the mythology of Samhain, of Halloween. Have they done that well? Questionable, but it's still cool that they gave it a go, because that's like, it's more popular these days, but at the time Halloween was all like just candy and skeletons. And it's a bit of like, it's fun, it's very stupid.
Yes, very stupid. Yeah, so that was Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Nothing to do with Michael Myers.
Nothing. It's the second byline. I'm really glad that I did watch it though, actually, because I think I got a bit sick of some of the Halloween sequels, and it was one that I didn't know he wasn't in it, so I was like, I'll skip that one.
Yeah, I guess
it kind of me.
If you're having like a Halloween, like the franchise kind of marathon, it's nice to have like a breather, maybe.
Yeah,
it acts as a palate cleanser.
Definitely, yeah. And then you get back to the stabby afterwards.
Yeah, exactly, and screaming teens. So my pick for movies that happen on Halloween is the wonderfully kitsch, the wonderfully campy, gory, everything you need for a Halloween movie, House of a Thousand Corpses, written, directed, and co-scored by Rob Zombie. It was his very first feature-length film. It is the first in the Firefly series, which features the Firefly family. It stars Sid Haig, Bill Moseley, Sherry Moon Zombie, Karen Black, Rainn Wilson. And it follows a pair of couples who are on the road. They want to write a book about kind of roadside attractions in deepest, darkest America. They are looking for the tree that local legend Dr. Satan was hung from. But on the way, they break down. And they are taken into a house by the Firefly family, who consist of a baby played by Sherry Moon. We've got Mother Firefly. We've got Grandpa. We've got Tiny, Rufus, and I forgot his name, Otis. There we go. Yeah, I was like, that really important one.
Yeah, it's the one who does the majority of the bad stuff.
Yeah, and it turns out they are not quite hospitable as they first appear to seem. Yes. And carnage
ensues.
And it is, I know Rob Zombie gets a lot of flack, and I know House of a Thousand Corpses get a lot, but it's so pure in its horror enjoyment. Like, it doesn't have any deeper meanings. It's just, it is what it is. And it's just, I love that it's influenced by like the 1970s films.
Oh yeah.
It's just schlock and gore and kitsch and cameras. And it's also like, I love the fact that it's also got this Rocky Horror Picture Show vibe to it. Like, it's literally if the Rocky Horror Picture Show went wrong.
Yeah.
Like, even Otis looks like the handyman from Rocky Horror Picture Show.
There's a bit of the Richard O'Brien's, a bit of the riffraff about him, yeah.
Right. So what do you think of House of a Thousand Corpses?
So I have a long and storied history with this movie. I saw it in the cinemas when it came out in New York City. So I would have been 15, maybe 16, probably too young to be watching it. And I went with a bunch of other teenagers who were not necessarily horror fans and did not know what they were walking into. And I remember coming out and like cackling, and everyone else was traumatized. I love this movie. I really, really do. Like, it's so fun.
Yeah.
It's so, again, it's kind of stupid, but a lot of horror is. That's, I probably should stop pointing that out. It's campy and kitsch in a very specific way.
Yeah.
I love the nods to the 70s, so, like, to the point where he shot a lot of all of the opening credits and all the cutaways on this like 16 millimeter camera, and it all looks very that. I love the lighting that they did. They have like blue washes and red washes and then white light, and they cut between it all really cool, like seamlessly. Everyone is having a ball.
Yeah.
Everyone is having so much fun.
Yeah.
With it. I will admit this, I hate the ending. And we can go into that afterwards. I'm not a fan of the ending, but it's a very small quibble in the grand scheme of things. Like and it's also, both of the movies actually that we're discussing today are an hour and a half, the perfect length. Like, it doesn't fuck about. Like, with a lot of torture porn these days, they're just so drawn out. And so, like, it's just a grind to get through them. Whereas this is really nicely interspersed with, like, bits of comedy and dialogue. And it's not just relentless. I mean, it is, but in a different way. It also takes a good long while to get to it as well. So you're building it up, which I really enjoyed. I was surprised, actually. I haven't watched this in a long time, not since I was actually a teenager. I watched it obviously when it came out, and then a few times after that. I had the soundtrack on CD. Like, loved it, obsessed. And so going back to it as, 10 years later plus, I'd say, in my head it was like the most extreme thing you could ever see. It was not. Like, I was like, this is what, like, I thought was the most extreme horror. Like, it's weird going back to, because it's known as something that's quite extreme, but going back to it and comparing it to some of the more Eli Rothy things that exist in the world now, it's kind of quite tame, really. Like, it really doesn't get as bad as I thought it was, because some of the scenes really stuck with me, like that scene of Rainn Wilson as the fish boy. Like, that, I'm never going to forget that. Or the sequence where the cops come and one of the characters' dads come to the farm to try and find them, and then it all goes into slow motion, and I Remember You plays over it. And, like, I'll never forget. It's ruined that song for me forever.
That scene is perfect. Like, I was watching it today, and it's
good.
It's really drawn out, but it's not like boring. You're just like, it's almost like you're holding your breath. And there's a scene where the deputy sheriff is on his knees in front of Otis, and Otis has a gun, and it's drawn out for a good long time. And it's like, oh my God, when is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? And then it's like, boom, and he shoots him. And you're just like, holy shit. Like, that is it. As you said, the film is just, it's quite fast paced, but it's just that gives you that break. But almost not. It's not quite a breathing space, but it is at the same time.
I mean, I wouldn't call it a breathing space, because there's a lot of horrible things happening on screen. Like, you've got the dad finding his daughter, like, literally crucified, bodies everywhere, and people getting killed. And I'm always sad to see Walton Goggins get struck down in his prime. I love me some Walton Goggins and his ridiculously white teeth. But, like, that bit at the end where it goes silent, that you were talking about there with the before he shoots him. Do you know how long that shot is?
No, very long.
26 seconds.
Wow.
I thought it was way longer than that. I was like, that's all? But that's a compliment in that it's like, it feels so much longer. Like, it's excruciating almost to watch. You're like, oh God, just do it.
Yeah.
Just kill the fucker.
Yeah, absolutely. But I just think, I don't know, it's just such a testament, because it goes from like this super neon, super kitschy, a lot of neon lights, a lot of like flashing lights, very in your face, to this sequence that is very 70s. It's very colors very desaturated. It's obviously got you playing in the background, and it's such a sharp turn when it comes to like atmosphere, but it doesn't feel out of place.
No, not at all.
Because it's like we're switching from the Firefly world, which is all overstimulating, overwhelming, horrific images, to the real world, which is this sequence. And it's really seamless.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It is seamless, and it does fit in well thematically. I think that's why the ending bothers me so much. Because I think the ending is such a huge departure from the rest of the film.
It is.
It's like a different film.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate House of a Thousand Corpses, because it's like, what kind of horror are you into? This film literally has it,
Well, yeah. That's fair, I guess.
It's got creepy clowns, it's got serial killers, it's got, remote inbred backwards family, whatever you're into. It's got a bit of a cultism in it. But yeah, I agree with you. The ending was just like, I read online that there was another ending that Rob Zombie had filmed, And then he thought it was really shit. And because he needed more money, he went to Universal and was like, here's my ending. And they were like, this ending's shit. You need more money. And he was like, yeah, I do. But it feels like he was like, oh, fuck, I've got to spend this money now.
I've got to
What
use
can
up
I spend
every
it on?
cent. 1,000,000 mummified corpses. Yeah, so spoilers for the end, I guess. And he has, and I think this is a bit of a cop-out, he has subsequently said that the ending might not be real. It might be like, you know, her, like the character gone crazy. I can't remember the actress's name or the character's name. She's just Dana from the L Word to me.
Yeah.
She'll always just be Dana from the L Word. But yeah, so that Dana from the L Word escapes this coffin, and there's like weird people and like this maze of tunnels underneath the house.
Yeah.
And she finds out that Dr. Satan is real, and he is a cyborg mad scientist who's experimenting on people that the Firefly family sort of sacrifice to them, I guess. Every Halloween seems to be the intimation, but and then a guy called the Professor is released, who's like this mad, like Doom like monster who chases her with an axe, and apparently
he reminds me of what's the shrimp doctor from Futurama? What's his
Dr.
name?
Zoidberg.
That's it. He reminds me of Dr. Zoidberg.
Love me some Zoidberg. Apparently he did actually nearly kill her because he couldn't see out of his prosthetics properly. And Rob Zombie was like, we just trusted that she was going to move fast enough. That's very irresponsible, Mr. Zombie. Anyway, she escapes him. She gets out. The late great Sid Haig, Captain Spaulding, pulls over and is like, we'll get you to the police station or a hospital. And then Otis pops up in the backseat. The end. So very Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That in and of itself didn't bother me because the whole movie is such a love letter to that period. So I was like, well, you can see it coming a mile off. But yeah, the Dr. Satan stuff, like aesthetically, it's a complete departure from everything else. And it also, I feel that the idea of the family just doing it because they're fucking mental is way scarier than there's a cyborg doctor living in the basement.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it also didn't feel necessary. Like they could have still been weird occultists and had like a rabbit maze of tunnels under their house without having that bit there. I
mean, he developed House of a Thousand Corpses. The idea came to him while he was developing a maze for Universal Studios for their Nights of Halloween. And that ending really does feel like you're in a haunted attraction. You know, you've got weird things coming at you and you've got to run and blah. So I get that. But yeah, it just felt totally unnecessary. And I would have liked to have seen his original ending just to see.
Yeah. Well, apparently there is a sort of like mythic director's cut, and apparently it was a lot gorier and a lot more extreme, but they wouldn't have even gotten their R rating. It would have been unrated. So he couldn't get a distributor without cutting it down so they could get their R rating.
Now I want to see it.
I know. Apparently it's like impossible to find.
Oh, he should release it.
He should release it, but
you know, his popularity is kind of dwindling at the moment. I really think he could use this push.
Well, you know what his next project is?
No.
It's a reboot of beloved family property, The Munsters.
I did know that. Yes, I must have just put it to the back of my mind, blocked it from my...
I can't wait for that. That's going to be mental. Interesting.
And I take it Sherry Moon is going to be Lily.
I mean, one can only assume. Yes. She only acts for her husband. She doesn't. She doesn't really act for anyone else. She did Toolbox Murders as a favor.
Okay.
Apparently, the pair of them bullied her into it.
I mean, I appreciate she only works with Rob Zombie, her husband, and apparently, you know, she's very instrumental in kind of the screenwriting, and she'll always read his scripts and tell him, you know, exactly what to do and, you know, all this kind of stuff. So I do appreciate them as a team.
I think so. Yeah.
And I don't think she's badly cast in any of his films, to be honest. Like, I love her as Baby. I absolutely love her as Baby.
She's great as Baby. Like that scene before it all goes to hell in a handbasket where they're doing like the show.
Yeah. I want to be loved by you.
Yeah. The Carol Kane, Betty Boop version of I Want to Be Loved by You. That dress, even though it's microdot, I'll forgive her because she looks fucking incredible. That makeup, it's just very good. It's very also I want to follow Spot in my house. Someone's to do it. It's just like she's really good in it. Everyone's having a good ass time.
And that's what you kind of want to see in like a good camp kitschy horror for Halloween.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I would always, like, if you're interested in that kind of horror, like, absolutely would recommend it 100%. Like, it's not the kind of horror I would ever recommend to someone who isn't already a horror fan. They wouldn't that enjoy it. This is not one of those films.
This isn't The Sixth Sense, like, you know,
no.
like
this isn't The Sixth Sense. But like, I mean, we've talked obviously about a lot of kind of camp classics and things over the episodes where you've asked me to join you, and a lot of those I think would appeal to people who are not necessarily horror fans. This would not.
No.
This is made by a horror fan for horror fans.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you feel about the fact that the three characters of Baby, Captain Spaulding, and Otis were then brought on to do the two sequels? So, namely, Devil's Rejects and Three from Hell.
I mean, I thought Devil Rejects was a bit of fun. It was okay. I did not like Three from Hell at all.
I don't remember Three from Hell, and I guess that's like
they like go to prison, but like everyone loves them now, but in the cinema world, or like in the world of the films, which is weird. Like it's a very weird flick.
I don't think I liked it. I really liked Devil's Rejects because, again, it was another nod to like the 70s kind of style. It was a completely different tonal shift.
Very different, yeah. And I enjoyed it, but it didn't stick in my mind in the same way the House of a Thousand Corpses did. Now, maybe that's because I watched it when I was a bit older and it was less kind of formative in the kind of things that I watched at such a young age. But it doesn't stand out in my mind as good as House of a Thousand Corpses, even though I think it got better reviews. And it wouldn't be the one that I would go to either. I would rather rewatch House of a Thousand Corpses than go back to The Devil's Rejects.
Yeah, I've definitely watched House of a Thousand Corpses way more than like it's on my list of like essential Halloween viewing. So out of the two, out of Season of the Witch and House of a Thousand Corpses, which one would you recommend over the other?
House of a Thousand Corpses. Like, I love Season of the Witch. I really enjoyed it. It's not as good a movie. It's not as even though it's, you see, like, I think in opposite to House of a Thousand Corpses, it's also only an hour and a half long, but it feels longer.
Yeah.
Whereas House of a Thousand Corpses, I was watching it and I was like, Jesus, we're nearly at the end already.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'd agree with you there. Definitely House of a Thousand Corpses. It's just got the look, the feel, everything. Like, it's perfect for like if it's like a dark stormy night around Halloween or even on Halloween, like it's perfect popping on and watching with your mates as well. Like, I kind of tell that if you put Season of the Witch on with your mates, people might get a bit bored and be a bit like, what the hell is this? Whereas House of a Thousand, it's so like assaulting on your senses.
Yeah, it's like, it's very loud, it's very colorful. Seizure warnings.
But yeah, it's just perfect for watching on your own, but also with a group of friends as well.
Yeah, I think so.
So do you have a list of authorans for films on Halloween?
Films on Halloween. We've talked about Hocus Pocus before. Obviously a classic.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going into some of the kids stuff again. Nightmare Before Christmas, also we've mentioned before. I really like the anthology stuff. I loved Trick or Treat, for instance. Same. I actually rewatched that just the other day, just because I was getting really into the spooky mood. That kind of stuff. Like, what did I watch recently as well? I hadn't seen it before. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which it wasn't great, unfortunately. But it still kind of like hit that like spot for me of like, you know, kind of anthology spooky stories. That's what I tend to kind of like a bit more. I have watched a few of they've started churning out these sort of like slashery things in like the Netflix era. So it was like the Funhouse Massacre and Hell Ride or something like that. I can't remember. And those are like very silly, but fun to watch around Halloween. They're like sort of Halloween candy floss, like they'll disappear as soon as you stop watching them, but they really put you in the mood, and I really enjoyed those kinds of things.
There was another film called houses that October built, or house that October built, and it's found footage, and it's about these people that go around looking for scare attractions and looking for the extreme ones, and they come across one and it's really weird and really fucked up, and they don't know whether it's real or acting, or so that's quite good. It has a spook again with the masks, a spooky doll mask in it, that really got me because I was like,
dolls, I love a spooky doll.
Yeah. So there's that one. That would be my pick, my like little known pick for people.
Yeah.
So what is your ultimate like Halloween? What do you have to watch every Halloween?
I mean, the ones I've already just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
I love watching. I have to watch Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah.
That's a must watch. And I usually go to my partner plays Frankenfurter in Rocky Horror Picture Ireland, so I usually get to see it with the stage show as well. So that's a nice addition to my Halloween.
Yeah.
I love watching some of the older stuff that we've talked about before, like some of the Universal horrors and things like that. Like that's a real sort of like comfort watch for me at Halloween. Like, it's getting cold, you get a cup of tea, you put on like Frankenstein or Wolfman or something like that, and you just get cozy and watch fabulous ladies screaming.
I
love watching those.
For me, a lot of the time it is like Hocus Pocus, Nightmare Before Christmas, because they're films that I can watch with Nate, and I really like enjoy getting into the spooky kind of feeling with him as well, especially because he's only just understanding what Halloween is, and also just understanding like how important Halloween is to me. So I really like watching those with him and having, getting the sweets and the popcorn and just doing that kind of
that's
family
really fun,
friendly, wholesome kind of Halloween. But for me personally, it's like the only time of the year that I will purposely go watch slashers, because I'm not massive into slashers. So I will watch Halloween and like Scream and stuff like When a Stranger Calls, or it's weird. It's like the one time of the year that I will actively seek out a slasher.
And again, it's like very much kind of like a mood sort of thing, like setting the tone, because you tend to have like a lot of those things on around Halloween, or even if you're watching like horror movies, sometimes they'll have like, this is sort of like, it's like a rushing nesting doll of things, because like I like watching the Universals, because like when you watch a lot of movies set at Halloween, you often have those kinds of movies on in the background in the films. And they do the same things with slashers as well, which is kind of fun. So then I'm like, ooh, I want to go watch that one. So it sets off a little chain reaction in my brain.
And I really I love watching films that have masks in for some reason. Obviously that's a lot with like slashers, but I was like, masks are for Halloween, so I have to watch films that have masks in them. And
I like masks. I like sort of more ghosty kind of things as well, like and kind of the campier end, as opposed to something like The Conjuring or Hereditary. I have to try really hard not to say hereditary every time. So like I like a good spooky Victorian ghost story, I think, is great at Halloween. It's why I actually really like Trick or Treat, is because the aesthetic is really that sort of Edwardian Georgian, like like those terrifying pictures of like children at Halloween in 1910. It's very that. Like, yes, papier mâché nightmares.
Bin bag nightmares, more like. Thank you so much for coming on and chatting Halloween with me, and happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Thank you so much for having me back again. I always have such a good time.
That was my chat there with fellow Scream Queen, spooky mistress, Ruby Noir, about films that are set on Halloween. And specifically, we chat about Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, which came out in 1982 and is directed by I've forgotten, Tommy Lee Wallace. There we go. Directed by Tommy Lee Wallace. And then we also chat about Rob Zombie's The Devil's Rejects from 2005. Two great films. Match. In fact, I think am I like, should you watch it on Halloween night? No, maybe not. These should be run up. Although I kind of feel like Devil's Rejects, maybe. Actually, you know what? I take it back. They're both good for Halloween night. In fact, you should spend 24 hours of Halloween just watching spooky films. But yeah, that was our chat. You can always find us on Instagram and Facebook at What a Scream Podcast, as well as Twitter at What_Scream. You can. Oh my God, what else can I say? What else do I usually say? Oh, I usually say like rate, review, subscribe. Whatever platform you're on. You can also catch us on YouTube as well sometimes. So yes, that is it. Enjoy spooky season. I hope you're watching lots of spooky movies and eating lots of spooky food and enjoying Goth Christmas. And as always, stay horrific. Goodbye.